Hi, I'm Paul from Test Data Services, and this video is the fourth in a series of real-world scenarios, and this one is conjuring up an email storm. Now, an email storm is an event where an application sends out messages, or emails in this case, and recipients of those messages open them, they click on a link, and they follow a business process that's initiated by that email, but that process may generate more than one email. So if a whole lot of people do something and their thing that they do generates a whole lot more emails, and then the people who open those emails generate more emails, you have a cascading event, which is like a storm. So I've got a contrived situation here to simulate an extreme version of that. It's a bit of fun, but it shows you a dataless test. It also shows you that AWS is able to handle lots of emails very quickly, and your testing is able to actually handle them as well. So it's a bit of fun, but it's got real life application. It's a real world scenario of catching emails, generating emails. I'm just not using a real app. I'm using something to simulate an app in the script. So I will show you first how we're going to set that up. I've got to go right over there to open this up. So I've got, to make it easier for you to see, I've got a Postman collection here which creates the steps to set up for this test. It's a dataless test. The first thing we do is create a new subscription key. We have to do that because everything in Test Data Services is keyed off subscription keys. And so that you can run one test and then another and then another, you can create as many sub-subscriptions as you like, but then they're keyed off this value. So this value now is going to drive this test. I'm going to save that value as a global variable in Test Data Services so that the scripts can actually grab that when they start and then leverage it. I'm going to create three metrics within Test Data Services: an emails received metric, an email sent metric. Now, each of these has a time interval, so we're actually catching and managing this data over an interval of 5 seconds. And we also care about email latency, how long it takes for these emails from when they're sent to when they're received and processed. I'm going to kick it off with one email address to start with. This is Logan. I'm going to make sure that there's no messages already in existence for Logan. And I'm going to do a subscription. Check out the other videos for how to deal with subscriptions of emails. So what we're doing here is we're subscribing or creating a subscription set of emails, and there's only one email address in it at the moment. And we'll have scripts that pop emails off this subscribed set, but this set will grow. So every time we have an email that gets received, depending on what generation it is, it will create a whole lot more. So if I create one generation 5 email, it will get read by a script and it will generate several generation 4 emails. Each of those will get received and read and will generate a whole lot of generation 3 emails and so on. And I can count how many emails have been processed so far with this particular call. If I now flip across to the load runner screen. So this is the load runner screen from a previous test run. And you can see here we've got emails sent, emails received, and the latency as 3 values that we're showing in user-defined data points. So to show you the 2 scripts that are involved, I have a metric script. The metric script simply goes in and it initializes by reading this random, the global variable and working out what the subscription key is, and then figures out how to be able to fetch these 3 metrics. And then every second it will go and it will do a call to get metric for the email received, for the email sent, and for the average latency. And it will then plot those. It will plot them as emails received as a data point in Load Runner. And that's what you see in this screen here. This is user data points. Very useful from Load Runner. The other thing, the script that does the real work is this email event loop. So if I show you this script, so the email event loop basically goes through the same initialization process so that it can be fully dataless. It doesn't have any data in the script that relate to people or email addresses. It goes into a loop. So each iteration it will go through and it will look for an email. So it does a call to pop subscribed email using the key that we just created in Postman a few minutes ago. And it will then have a look at the contents of the email and it will decide what generation it is. And if the generation is more than 0, it means let's create a whole stack more emails. Now I've set this up so if it's a generation 1, let's create 2 emails. If it's a generation 2, let's create 5. If it's gen 3, we'll create 8. A gen 4 will create 4, and a gen 5 will create 3. So these all multiply out, and it'll be close to 1,000 emails will be generated by just firing off one of these gen 5 emails. This is the loop that it goes through. It gets a random email address, then it subscribes to that address so that we can actually pop emails that actually are sent to that address, and it will go through for each of the number of times it needs to create all of the requisites for managing emails, and then it will actually send one. It'll do this send mail call, and it will put subject level as the subject and the new generation number, so it'll know how to do that. So I've shown you the 2 scripts that run. If I now start this test, and all I need to do is I'll just start manually. The first user I'm running here is the one that's collecting metrics. So it's going to every second collect metrics, and those metrics should be 0. Now I'm going to start one user that's checking for emails. Now you can see here it's flipping between checking, and there's not much there. I'll just start a few users up doing this so you can see it. Now they're all checking. Now if I go back to the Postman screen, oops, all the way over here, sorry, and I create a small email event. I've just created a message. Now we'll see that message come through in a few moments. It takes about 6 or 7 seconds. We found an email. Now that one email is now getting processed, and it's generating 2, 3, 4, 5 emails. So each of those 5 emails are now going to get processed, and each of those generate 2 more. So you can see how this is working. Now we're doing generation 1 emails, and then you can see very quickly generation 0 emails don't do very much. So they only flip up on the screen for a few moments. So if I now, instead of, I want to show you a count. We've got 16 emails. Now if I create a gen 5, all right, so we've created a gen 5 email. This is going to generate a lot. Oops. This is going to generate a lot of messages. There we go. We've got our gen 5's been processed. What I will do is I will just increase the screen here so you can see all 49 users. Now you can see we've got some Gen 3s and some Gen 4s in play. So now I've got 49 users all polling or doing pops as an event-driven style email process. And now you can see we're doing some generation 2s, generation 3s still, and now we're really pumping through lots of emails. So while that's happening, we can look at these graphs. So this graph here, this line, is showing us emails sent. So in the last 5 seconds, we sent 24 emails, and now we've sent 99 emails, and this is going to keep on going up. Now, so that we can make this go a bit harder and a bit longer, if I go and where is it? Where's my email? Yeah, I lost my email storm. Where did it go? Here we go. I'm going to create another Gen 5 email. I'm creating another Gen 5 email now. Push push that out of the way. Now you can see we've peaked here at 120 something per 5 seconds, but we're still reading emails. And now our latency is starting to go up because we're not quite keeping up with reading them. But that's all good. Let's have a look and see what they look like. So we basically got through that first spike. Let's create another Gen 5 and maybe another Gen 5. So we can actually make sure that we get a bigger spike. And you can see quite a storm brewing and running. So we can see a Gen 5 one. Sorry, there's a Gen 5, Generation 5, which will cause a whole lot of Gen 4s. And there's a Gen 4. So I think you get the message that this is a pretty extreme example of a test, but I'm generating these emails for real. They're proper emails going through Amazon's simple email service. They could go to any destination they like. They're being caught, they're being processed, and they're being managed as a script. So if you had a situation where your application and the test generated emails and you wanted to catch them for a large cohort of end users, it's actually easy to do. So let's have a look now at what this looks like. We've got a pretty big spike here. We went up to 250. So what I might do is just to show you what it looks like. We're through most of it. I don't really need to do much more. Let me go back to Postman and have a look at how many. Count. Let's have a count of them. So we've sent 3,200 messages. We've popped 3,066. So we're not quite keeping up at the moment. Let's stop the test though. Stop. We don't have to read them all. It's not mandatory. And stop now. So now we can have a quick look at the analysis for the test. We can see what that looks like. So analysis will open up and we're going to go straight to the user data points graph. So I'm going to open a graph, user data points and average. And now we can see this here. We can change the properties to say absolute time. Oops, I probably should have waited. I've got to create that graph again the way I did it, just as it was refreshing all its data. User data points, average. Change the display options to put absolute time in. And change the granularity to be 1. Actually, may change the granularity to 5 because I've got 5 as my interval anyway, so it looks smoother that way. So we can see that this graph, this line here, we had email. Oh, this is email latency. So we got up to 35 seconds of latency, and these two are emails sent and received, but you can see the scale here is 0.1. That's because, let's configure measurements and set scale of 1 for all of them so that it makes more sense. We can see that in a 5-second period, we sent 255 emails. We received 255 emails, and in a 5-second period, we were able to send 150. So that's 30 a second, which is pretty good. My limit for Amazon's 20 something emails a second, so that's probably why this has happened. But you can see that we're actually able to receive and process 255, so that's over 50 emails per second through this mechanism, which I think's pretty good. Hope you found this interesting as a dataless test, as a way of managing emails, and as a fun email storm demonstration. Have a great day.